this ENFRA show with me, Professor Iyer, editor and publisher of both ENERTIA and Marconomy magazine. And we have a very important guest in Bhutan today from Thimphu, the capital city of the country, a country which is the closest friend of India. And we have another friend of India and a person who has seen life, who has seen society, who has seen economy growing. And Saamdu Chetri with us. Welcome, Saamduji, with us, So my first question to you is, there's a lot of dynamism in this Bhutanese society, a small population surely of 700,000 people, but high amount of dynamism. And there is also a bombardment of ideology now coming to a process. The world is looking at, initially it was a dialogue between India and Bhutan, but the world is looking at Bhutan. Obviously India had a role in that as well, but I mean to say now you are bombarded by a lot of ideas, a lot of interaction, while people went out, but now a lot of people are coming in and interacting with you. So what you see for Bhutanese society in this type of interaction with the world, the entire world order, including India for sure, continuing the relationship with India, but seeing the world interacting with you, and this in a culture which probably has not seen so much of frequency of interactions, in the past.
Thank you, Professor Iyer. In fact, it's an honor for me to sit here and talk to you. Basically, we are not very different from any developing countries. We are also bombarded by the world outside. What our youth see, they see greener in the other side of the fence as well. So it has brought us to a juncture where you heard our Prime Minister open the summit the other day. He was bringing out all the bad side of our country, and that included all the crimes that happens in the country. But we are very hopeful, given the fact that we are still about 70% rural. We are very hopeful that the little amount of issues that we have can be quite quickly addressed, because we have begun educating for GNH in schools from already 2009. And now from April this year, the GNH Center, my institute, is going to also start piloting in schools compassion and mindfulness and ethics into the school, in learning processes, starting with teachers themselves, so that the way they behave, the way they walk through will be a transformative idea to the students as well. Yes, there are challenges. I'm not saying we are not without challenges, but given the fact that we are a small nation, a very small population, and we still, although the king gave us democracy, he gave his crown to the people, but he is still our uniting force. He is still our symbol to which we look at. And he has been the driving force in our entire transformation, also among the youth, because he meets everybody. So he is also called the king of the people.
Exactly.
So that way, obviously there is a force from outside, that the world outside comes and tells you, oh guys, you don't have this, you're no more Shangri-La, you don't have that, oh you lack all these facilities. But they don't try to see from the side of the people how happy they are without having all those. And this has also brought transformation. And as you know, now roads are reaching to every villages. That already draws back all the rural population to urban areas.
Exactly.
And that's killing the farming and the systems back, the networking. In fact, it forces our elderly people to come to the cities and start living with their own children who are working here. And that does not bring happiness to them, because children on the other side feel it's a burden on them, that the parents have come into the cities, leaving everything behind, while the houses are all locked in the interiors of Bhutan. But we see that there is also a momentum where people have understood that we are going wrong. So there is also some minds around, some schools of thoughts, that we should do much more to attract people back in the villages.
Good, sir.
So we are going through that process at the moment, and if you happen to meet any of the students, for example, of class 10, 9, and ask to them, what is the most important to you? They will immediately tell you that, money is not everything.
Exactly.
All the youth consider money brings happiness, but they don't realize that more and more brings more greed into you, and you become more unhappy because you keep chasing something which doesn't come to you at all.
Right.
So therefore, even this school of thought is also changing among the youth. In fact, we just recently concluded a youth program for 450 youth on the very principles of values of ethics of life and living, with mindfulness as the basic means. And we understood how reflective they became all of a sudden. So we are very hopeful, given this fact that we are still connected to our rural farming. Although I am living here, but I'm born in a farm.
Right.
I was in fact, I was born in a cow shed.
Great.
And
That's wonderful.
Yes, and from cow shed I reached to the Prime Minister's office, but that was not my intention.
Right. It was automatically.
Automatically it happened.
Right. You didn't crave for it.
No, I never craved for it.
Lovely.
And every time I went back home, my mother chased me away.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2006, actually, I had to come back. Although I had already left my job and started to work with the community in my small farm, because happiness is not in the consumerism.
Absolutely.
Happiness is much more beyond that, where you can balance your, nurture your inner self.
Right. So in that connection question, with your very important involvement with the GNH issues, and then you are training younger people for understanding national happiness and moving towards gross national happiness. See, shouldn't we dynamically, while everything is dynamic, the king has taken a great initiative that the earlier king, the senior one, who actually brought the concept, and the younger one who further done, both are doctorates, highly qualified people, and now very highly educated people like you, who are intellectuals who know the process, and you are going forward. You're bringing ethics and morals situations, which are very important for business as well, because in India we're talking of ethics in business today. It's the biggest topic, to see that the contribution to the nation will come. And the very important thing that you said is decentralized development, which is uprooting people. So which was also the concept of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the great man who probably is called the father of the nation. And India actually must go back to the forefront of decentralized model. So you have almost said the same thing. For a very big country of 1.2 billion, it seems similar to a small country that you think that you are, but your big idea of GNH. This big idea, can't it be made global? To make it global, probably a big friend like India, the same friendship can be extended to expand it. And I tell you, there's a great concept, because we should go back to actually making people happy. Yet, I would say through the process of karma, which has been impacting both Buddhism, Hinduism, and I would say all of Asian faiths, to work hard and bring people up, work for others, not only for yourself. Don't you think that we need to really stress and go back and work? And that is what this business is all about. Business is not untouchability. It is not about only profits, but profitability. Profitability is a sustainable long-term approach which comes from ethics, morality, decentralization, and bringing GNH. Don't you find that somewhere we are missing this great element, and somebody of your type can actually bring that mentality into people, and I think all the dishappiness of going towards urban center. Maybe rural centers become like urban so that people don't migrate.
Yes.
Facilities are given to them.
True.
As well.
True. Sorry. In fact, our uphill task is that actually we want to bring all the benefits, all the facilities of the urban into the rural area. But talking about GNH, Bhutan has brought it to the UN. UN, in fact, has requested Bhutan to, propose what could be after 2015 Millennium Development Goals.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the Secretariat for New Development Paradigm, and GNH plays a big role there.
Great.
We have submitted the report to UN already in December last year, and now next year we are going to have again an international conference of high level people in Bhutan for GNH as well. So GNH has become global. There were 5 international conferences already around the world, and now we have the philosophy of GNH that's measurable, and GNH is not something that provides you happiness, but it provides you condition where you can practice your own well-being and happiness. That is GNH. Now, how does the government look into this is, that you could go to such a specific disintegrated data that you could say in a village called Chokor, there are women between the age of 35 and 50 who are unhappy. And the reason for unhappiness is one of the domains, which is education, is missing.
Yeah.
So how does the government address that? They quickly get into non-formal education, they put a strategy, they put the funds there. So they try to bring equity all through the country.
Right.
So that's how the government looks at it. And then as well, the government also has a tool called policy screening tool, which any new programs, new businesses, anything you name it, new policies coming in, have to go through 22 parameters, which look into equity, looks into environment, looks into distribution patterns, looks into your health. How does it bring a transformation into the society? And if it doesn't pass through with plus 66 points, then the project fails.
Right.
And so we are very concerned about this. And the world is changing very fast, although we know that much of the world is run by all the big people with great amount of money, actually. So it's difficult to break them because they are dependent on the corporations and big industries. But if you look into people themselves, you talk about southern Italy, you talk about southern England, they are in fact talking about livelihood.
Yes.
Talking about livelihood, changing the whole perception about economy.
Right.
And what is sustainable. So they are in fact creating their own so-called 1 kilometer range society, or zero range society they call it, where they are interdependent and they don't want to have imports or exports out. Because ultimately the goal of everybody's life is happiness.
Yes.
How do you create happiness? Because we all one day will die. So what is the use of creating so much wealth and not making somebody happy? Is the very concept, the philosophy of GNH looks into equitable distribution.
Right.
You mentioned one of the Scandinavian countries actually. They are one of the happiest nations because...
Yeah, Sweden. We are talking about Sweden. Yeah, for sure.
For example, Denmark is the happiest nation.
Yeah,
that was rated in 2013 World Happiness Report.
Right.
Just for two things. One, their difference between rich and the poor is very
low,
minimal,
very low.
Very
Yes.
low. And the other one is that they are a giving society. They like to contribute to the other people.
Absolutely.
So just two things make them so happy. And all the Scandinavian countries are along those lines, rather.
Right.
So in our own culture, in our Hinduism, in our Buddhism, or the Asian culture, this should be, the giving is there.
Yeah, it's already there.
It's already there.
I think we were taught first that giving makes you happy.
Happy, exactly.
And it is part of our genetic code, in fact.
Yes, exactly.
And we are not following it.
Yes, we're not following it.
Yeah.
So now what we're trying to say through GNH is that we need to follow this back.
Yes.
And we need to find the purpose of our life and living.
Exactly. Now, for example, we were talking about business leaders. So I was of the opinion that business leaders, unless they embrace philanthropy, they will not be happy. For example, in America, Bill Gates, unless he formed a public fund and then he called everybody else to form 50% of their entire life's earning, we put in a fund for social development. I don't think he would have ever gotten happiness just by creating Microsoft.
No.
And so even the richest guys in America, which includes him and Warren Buffett, who came, have created some amount of business community which actually is able to contribute back to the society. Because finally they earned, because the taxation system in America is earning from the people, and it's the people's money through which businessmen become rich.
True.
So there is an example right there in the richest economy in the world's open democracy.
And that's the unhappiest nation in the world.
Exactly. They are unhappy because they did too late to do this. And it needed a Bill Gates or a Warren Buffett to achieve this. I think over the next 10 years, if they look intrinsically and they stop this blatant consumption, probably they will achieve it. So exactly I want to come to that question. Consumerism versus materialism. So how do you address this? One is that we need something and we have to consume. You and me need food because we feel hungry. And we have to eat maybe 2 chapatis and maybe some rice, some dal and some whatever you like. After that, with the second roti, this was not me, this was Mahatma Gandhi. Once he said famously that the first roti is important, it's a need. The second one, you already fulfilled your need. The third one is now reaching want. And the fourth one, you're making more people go hungry. How do we see this, sir?
In fact, just to give you one example, we have a college called Gedu College of Business in southern Bhutan.
Okay.
And every quarter, you have the disciplinary committee sitting around and addressing number of problems of the students. And they were all disciplinary problems. And we started with the universal human value, exactly on the lines of Mahatma Gandhi. We said, we just asked them, do you want to be happy? They said yes. Then we said, do you think other people want to be happy?
Yes.
And they said yes. And then the third question we asked was, do you think other people want you to be happy?
Yes.
And there was no answer.
They all were silent.
They all were silent. So, there is this, which you talked about, the doubt of the people. There's no courage. Because you think you lost in the perception that the others don't think good about you.
Yeah.
So this needs to be broken, and this could be broken through the universal value. And we asked them, by the way, how many dresses do you have back in your cupboard in your hostel?
Absolutely.
And they had no idea. They started scratching their head. We said, what do you want to do with that?
Exactly.
And they said, oh. And the following day, they started to wash it, bring it in bundles into the college.
Yeah.
And they started to distribute, And then we started talking to them that what we need for a human body is nourishing food.
Correct.
Just to nourish your body,
Right.
not more, not less. Few pieces of clothes
Right.
that can take you through different temperatures.
Right.
And number 3 is roof over your head.
Exactly.
If you have these 3 things, all that you make after that does not go with you into the graveyard.
So
or
what
to
we
the
call is roti kapda makan.
makan. So basically, if we do not exceed this,
Yes.
we are within the limits of needs of consumption, of materialism. But if you cross this, then we are into the domain of greed. So therefore, we try to bring the value of material and spiritual balance.
Right.
We say that, for you to be happy, you need to balance this very important fact, the material fact, which is defined by roti, kapra and makhan, and the spiritual need of your body, through which, you could meditate, you could pray, you could, do readings.
Right.
So we encourage this. And then to tell you the truth, within 4 months or 5 months, after that there was no disciplinary committee sitting. Still today, the whole entire college doesn't have a sitting of a disciplinary committee. So when you try to bring these innate human values
Right.
back to ourselves, it's all existing in us.
Yeah.
But somehow the situation, the circumstances have changed our mind. For example, India alone, I just saw on the net last year in June, spends $412 billion on advertisement.
Yes.
They condition your mind. Now, if that money is divided to 1.5 billion people in India, I think every person gets about 20,000 rupees.
That's right. Absolutely.
So you're forcing people, changing their mindset to use something, to apply something, to eat something, which is totally outside the innate human values. So we need to bring back this very verification in every human being saying, is this really required? For example, what we teach to our children is, when you go to town, of course you have money, you see nice things, you enter a store, but ask yourself, do I need that?
Yes.
And if they say, if the answer is yes, then the next question you ask is for what? Then you have the answer, either to buy or not to buy. Because I tell them, if you stop eating meat, the butcher will stop killing animals. Similarly, if you are satisfied with a few clothes, the factories will not produce more. So the global warming issue will be reducing. So this is also consumption. And I tell them much more than that. Consumption is not just food, clothes, and what you wear. Consumption is also what you see. Consumption is what for example, young people like to get into pornography and all these bad habits happen. This is a bad consumption. How does it react to your individual self and you lose yourself? Because the greed takes you over. Either you want some beautiful girl which you are not able, you have no approach to. Or you want something that you can't crave for something that you can't have it. And what happens is then you lose yourself, you know. So I and the self become totally out of you.
Right.
And so the mind and the body separate. But we want you to continue to have this together and reflect on what you do very mindfully every step of your day. And education is something that you can't
Yes,
just teach
absolutely.
and stop. You have to constantly re-educate and educate the same thing over and over again. Coming back to education, by the way, I think all our education today, given the fact that we need to change, the GDP model doesn't work anymore, we need to change altogether, and we need to reflect. I think livelihood, mindfulness is much more powerful than just going to a school and learning mathematics and some basic science and geography.
Right. But I again want to come on that, see, for a common man, people who go towards spirituality or understand that much better or reach a stage of life where they can go, they would understand better like you. But for a very young person who comes in, they are exposed to the entire world. And here is a telecommunication IT-driven world where bombardment of information is every instant, and that's super mechanically capturing them, So, we can't say, let them expose, there's nothing wrong. But where is the model where GNH itself competes within this? My point is that. And then it brings its own qualified, instead of being abstract, it starts qualifying itself as a competing element, That is what is the fight between GDP-driven models versus GNH-driven models. And I would even say, I would go a little like a devil's advocate, saying, advertise GNH, the same principle. Because see, I tell you, when you talk about India's advertising, we have 800 media channels that compete within themselves. And I can assure you, within that process, it is not products that are being advertised. It's actually, sometimes you'll be shocked to know that it's advertising of, sometimes some Babas advertise themselves. You come to my satsang, and my good talk, and thousands approach. Shri Shri Ravi Shankar, who is a very good exponent, advertises himself. So I would see advertisement as a very positive tool rather than a negative tool. Like, for example, power plant, I need engineers. I would rather advertise to work in my power plant. So it's not like the Western advertising in India. When you look at that figure of 412 billion, I would say some 300 billion is really funded on productive advertising for the society. So GNH itself needs to probably advertise, vocally talk about itself and say, I'm a competing idea and I was existing for a very long time.
True. I don't know how much we need to advertise, but what we are doing as a GNH.
I'm not talking about physical advertising, but advertising means talking like you.
Yes, exactly.
We are communicating. Exactly. All other means publicity, using internet, using the world. The same things which look negative will look positive to us.
True. In fact, in the last 1 year, we have addressed 8 different groups of international people to see and to learn together with them how to lead GNH in practice.
Right.
And we have found it is very, very powerful. We had in the group, including the governor of Oregon and his wife, First Lady, who participated. Now, what he did when he went back was invited 20 more governors to his state and began the process.
That's great.
So GNH is not limited to Bhutan.
Correct. It must expand.
It must expand, and we have expanded.
Very good.
We have expanded. We had, in fact, in 2012, April 2nd, 800 participants globally. There were 6 Nobel laureates, in fact, who participated. We had leaders from around the world. We had ambassadors who really took heart in GNH very much. Because GNH is much more than GDP. We're not saying GDP must be excluded.
Let it be.
But there are negative things in GDP. Yeah. For example, if wife and husband go to work, you earn something that's somehow added to GDP as an income of the family because they spend money on the consumerism.
Okay, I'll tell you a counter of this, if I can interrupt with your permission. In India, the housewives, I was of the opinion with the government and especially in India, the housewife, she contributes, she doesn't earn an income, but the husband is earning. So we wanted the income tax of the buddy, the husband, to be computed as half. For that we said he should pay a salary to his wife officially. So that it can be, then only you can do real assessment of GDPs.
Exactly.
But this, even Indian government has not followed. I mean, it's a suggestion from me, has still not been followed. Although we will be much closer to the GNH than anybody else in the world. We are not only neighbors, but we actually practice GNH most of the times without knowing it,
True.
So, I do not know. I just wanted to interject and tell you this.
Yes.
Even today, people don't consider a housewife as contribution.
Which is
And her
totally
contribution is phenomenal.
Phenomenal. And for example, if she puts an Iyer or somebody to work,
Right.
and she goes to work,
Right.
that what she pays to Iyer is accounted in GDP.
Absolutely.
But her being in the house
Is not accounted.
Not accounted. And it's so powerful.
It's very powerful. She gives us time,
effort,
and
looks after
emotion,
children,
emotion, love.
supports husband, love.
Mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling, really mind-boggling.
Is it
And
not GNH?
This is GNH. That's exactly where we come.
Yes.
And similarly, we have forests are not accounted for. The resources,
The wealth and the asset, the forest asset.
Yes, we say this is a part of GNH.
Absolutely.
And GDP does not recognize a standing tree.
Yes.
But if you cut and sell, the GDP grows. So Bhutan has over 70% of forest. If we all cut tomorrow and sell, our GDP will skyrocket.
Yeah, but your happiness is gone.
Our happiness is gone. The ecology is gone. The
Absolutely.
diversity is gone. Biodiversity, nothing remains.
Right.
So what we are saying is that, for example, when you have a war or a big problem in a country, strikes and all that, you destroy a lot of property.
Yes.
To rebuild those property, it's added to GDP.
Exactly.
But in our case, we say, why did these people do that?
Exactly.
Because they do not have the values of human innate values. That's why they went into destruction. So therefore, what is spent in that must be subtracted from GNH,
Yes.
in GNH,
Yeah.
rather than adding to GDP.
Exactly.
So we're looking into, accounting for GNH.
Exactly.
We
They're
have
qualifying
started
and qualifying
and
it.
quantifying, yes.
Because that will take it forward further.
Yes.
And I also want to, interestingly, since I come from India, I have to ask, but why don't we create a seminar in India or a conclave in India where we can also help you? Why not we give GNH to, because it will be very easy to promote it, because I tell you, it will become even more global when it goes to an economy like India, because it's a faith-driven economy. Because in our system, we have all the religions and equal respect for everything. All the faiths, including Baha'i faith from Iran, which is no home. India is the home to it.
Yes.
We have everything. We have Buddhism, we have Hinduism.
Yes.
So
Some of the greatest, sorry to cut, some of the greatest Buddhist gurus came from India.
Absolutely.
Padmasambhava.
Absolutely.
Even today,
Yes.
His Holiness Karmapa and Dalai Lama walked that land.
Absolutely.
So, Jainism was born there.
Exactly.
It became a very fertile ground for Muslim.
Right. For sure.
Yeah, and Buddhism was born there.
Exactly.
And
So I mean to say, why not take the GNH equation? It will be much easier because there is a very large population which will relate with this idea.
I'm very happy that you bring this point up. I don't know why our people haven't looked into India as such, but we have gone outside. Maybe the fact that Bhutan is such a great friend to India, and anytime we would ask, we would have a platform there. But it hasn't happened. So I'm sure with your background, with your reach, if we could definitely start a forum.
We are in fact planning to launch a magazine by the name of GNH World.
Wonderful.
So I would like to launch that with conclave with Bhutan or something like that.
That would be wonderful.
Maybe somebody like you leads and helps us out in arranging this. For your people to come there.
Wonderful.
Because our people will definitely come.
Sure.
Because inside India I can take care of everything.
Sure.
But I want the right type of GNH promoters, from your side to be there, so that we are able to give the concept in the right way.
Wonderful. We can arrange that. It's not a problem.
Because this will change the dynamics and it will create new fellows who will actually come, your own best friends. India is your best friend, and you'll see a lot of Indians marketing and immediately coming to the GNH idea.
Yes.
And they would immediately relate with it because that is going to happen quickly.
True, very true. In fact, if we can bring GNH to India,
You won the world.
we won the world.
It's as simple as that.
As simple as that. Yes, true. Very true.
So probably we didn't look at this angle for so many years of relationship between
That's
India
true.
and this.
That's true.
Because I'm a big fan of GNH.
But by the way, GNH was propounded in Mumbai
Okay.
when His Majesty the former king was coming from the NAM summit in Israel or somewhere in the Middle East.
Okay.
As journalists, they asked him, "You come from a very small country with very small population. What is your GNH?"
Okay.
That was the moment he propounded that gross national happiness is more important than gross domestic product.
Lovely, lovely.
So it has been born in the soil of India.
India,
actually.
right in Mumbai, in the
That way,
commercial
yes,
capital of the
yes,
country.
commercial capital of India.
That's absolutely great, to know. I come from Mumbai because I live in the suburbs of the MMR region, which we call the Mumbai Metropolitan Region, population of 25 million people, unbelievable, almost more than the smallest state like Haryana. We have population more than them, Anyway, sir, the last question, and it was wonderful talking to you, which I must say to all my viewers that it was wonderful talking to Saamdu Chetri sir. And let us talk of rights and duties, While a new society is emerging, it probably knows everything about its rights. Young people know about their rights. But somewhere down the line, rights are derivatives. It's again a Gandhian concept because Gandhiji always felt that rights are there. But they're there to take because you must perform your duty. The example was the parent, A parent will do no injustice to the kids, They will give them freely whatever they have. Knowledge, education, even money for that matter to some extent, help and service in service of the kids, their children. And they do ask nothing in demand. Not even no demand, It is just given, by the parents. So it's a great relationship between the parents and the children, So where the child gets all the rights, right, but starts realizing the rights only when they get into a teenage or some age, and then that's the time some kind of duty or a sense of duty comes in, and that sense of duty in this case is automatic. But in case of relationship between nations, where societies, government, and monarchies, or anything that you call it, governance or government, and relationship come, probably I think the population never understands most of the time its duties. It's only bothered about its rights. Not because of anything else, but because of the process, probably.
Right.
So how do you think of this? Shouldn't we encourage and keep a kind of a educative process of all the rights are there, but you must not forget your duties towards the society, towards the environment, towards the community, towards yourself, towards the future, your children, their children, the next children, and towards the animals, the next animals, towards the beings that surround and make the planet.
Wonderful. In fact, if you go back a little bit in history, our former king, the fourth king of Bhutan, the present king's father,
The Jigme Singye Wangchuk, or the Honorable.
yes, His Majesty Jigme Singye Wangchuk,
Yes,
actually designed, he's the architect of...
absolutely, the gross national happiness.
Yes, he's not only gross national happiness, also the democracy.
Great.
People didn't know, but he decentralized the power from, from the center to district
Yes.
in 1982. Then he decentralized from district to the lowest block
Right.
in 1990.
Okay.
So 10 years later.
Something like what we have at the Gram Panchayats in
Gram
India.
Panchayat, yes.
Similar.
Similar.
Okay.
So basically the power was in the hands of
the common
ultimately
man.
of the, no,
Okay.
it was on the top,
Right.
the king and his ministers. But he devolved this power slowly
To the common man.
to the common man, asking them, it's your duty to say what you want.
Exactly.
And we put it in the plan and provide you.
Yeah.
So he designed this over 30 years.
Right.
And suddenly, when he realized that it was time now, he asked the a committee to develop our constitution.
Correct.
And in that constitution, by the way, we have, I think, unlike any constitution, we have, things like that the king will resign at the age of 65.
Okay.
You know?
So there's also a kind of a retirement age.
Yes, retirement. He said that 60% of our land must be under forest.
Okay.
There are duties spelled out in the constitution.
Absolutely.
of
It's
every
important.
citizen.
It's important.
Yes.
You can't damage the environment for the process of just
Yes,
growth.
yes.
Growth without environment is no growth.
Yes, no good. So, we have looked into almost 125 constitutions in the world and designed our own constitution.
Great.
In there, like I said, we have spelled out the duties of every citizen
Good.
very clearly.
Right.
Apart from this, what we also have is, we have education systems to tell the people, like exactly what you said, what is your duty towards your land, towards your people, towards your constitution, towards the democracy, towards the animals, towards the environment.
Yes.
That's very well spelled out. And we do try to bring these issues also in forums, in discussions, and in trainings.
Right.
So people are aware that this is things that we should not do as a citizen of the country. But of course, I'm not saying that we're completely there.
Yeah.
Because young always think about democracy is freedom. They don't know what freedom means. So they say, oh, I should be looked after by my community or my government, It's not my duty to do anything. I mean, this kind of...
That is very dangerous.
That's a very dangerous way.
People must work hard,
yes,
contribute, and be part of it.
So His Majesty the King moves around and talks to individuals, to groups, to youth, telling them that you must not forget your duty.
Yeah, you must contribute.
You must contribute, and you cannot be complacent.
Exactly.
Then he also has told widely and every time that I will be your father, I'll be your son, I'll be your brother, I'll be your friend. I'll keep nothing for myself. I'll serve you, like all my parents, grandparents, forefathers have done it. But situation is changing.
Yeah.
So therefore, you have to be more responsible now because the power has been given to you.
It is already divested.
It's already divested into you.
Yeah.
So you must lead us now.
And be responsible.
And be responsible. So this is a message he brings, and I think, like I said earlier, King for us is a symbol, a unity. So when he speaks to people, goes into our hearts very immediately.
Right. And because there is a moral position.
Yes, there's a moral.
A moral and a dynamic position that they hold right now.
Yes. And so I do not see that Bhutan will change drastically in this area.
Yeah.
Although the power devolution has already taken place.
Right.
People make their demands and get their plans, and they also execute themselves. It's not driven by the top-down model, it's rather the bottom-up model. So it's functioning, but we will still, because we are still young, it will still need few more years before we can be proud of that. Every citizen in this country knows what his or her duty is.
Like for example, even Sweden, it has a monarchy, but it is a democracy.
Yes.
And I do not think, over several years what I studied here, it's so free that today somebody was just telling me that you can be constructively critical of the king as well, inside Sweden. So I give all the best of luck to the kind of democracy that you evolve, because finally the chance is when people become responsible. Because every time the responsibility of your great dynasties of the Wangchuck dynasty has done its duty. Yes. It is done for a century. Yes. And I was at the centenary celebration, and I think it is right timing. It's a right time that when a group of people, for what they came together was just fighting the British in those days. Yes. I remember. But over a period of time, now we are fighting different things. We are fighting an economic agenda. We are fighting sustainability. We are fighting modern day situation. We are not in the old world situation. So I think they are right, because I think the wisdom is there very clearly, and I think Bhutanese society has enough wisdom, to grow itself. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And Saamdu Chetri sahab, it's wonderful. The Indian viewers who are going to watch ENFRAtv are going to have a great time seeing your interview, and probably they'll get the idea that it's not all money, and it's not all money, honey. It's also a lot of happiness that you to generate amongst families, the smallest bundle of society, amongst communities who live together, and then goes to nation, and then goes to world order. This exchanges that you must see every global citizen happy. And that's what the message that Saamdu Chetri has given us. The world is, we have Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The entire world is a community.
It's our family.
And it's our family. That's the Indian way of thinking. That's obviously the Bhutanese way of thinking. We are no different. And today we have the most friendly country. And I want to also say that India and Bhutan are not only friends today, probably this friendship is spiritual. It is beyond imagination. And that friendship will continue forever. It has nothing to do with just the economic agenda. It has got to do with the gross national happiness of our people.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Very deep insight. Thank you, Iyer sahab.
Thank you, sir.
And my best to all the people in India. I wish you all the happiness in the world.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.